Okay, Erica, it looks like we've got everyone that was in the waiting room in now. So if you want to go ahead and get going.
Yep, I'll kick us off. Hello, everybody. Happy Friday and welcome on our Show Your School Psych Spirit Day, as we're going to talk about interventions. And we have a really packed agenda with folks who are really excited to share some of the intervention work that they're doing within the context of COVID-19. So I'm Erica Ollinger, and I am the chair of the OSPA Crisis Response Committee. I'm also the NASP delegate, and I'm very happy to see you all today. I'm going to quickly let the other members of our Crisis Response Committee introduce themselves, and then we'll get right to today's content. So Sarah, would you like to go first?
Sure. I'm Sarah Rich. I am a past president of OSPA and of course part of this committee. And my day job is a school psychologist with OSU Center for Health Sciences in Tulsa.
Great. Catherine.
Thanks. I'm Catherine Moore, and I have been on the Crisis Response Committee in addition to serving as communications co-chair along with Brittany Stein. And I currently work as a school psychologist at the OU Health Science Center.
The dueling health science centers. Okay. Trisha.
Hi, everyone. I'm Trisha Goga. I am a crisis team school psychologist at the Oklahoma State Department of Education, and I'm on a few committees for OSPA, and I am treasurer-elect for this next year.
And Jackie.
Hello, I'm Jackie Johns, and sorry, I'm a school psychologist in Collinsville Schools, and it's passing period right now. So if you hear a lot of noise, sorry, that's all the kids out there in the hallway. And I am currently the president-elect for OSPA and a member of the crisis team.
Okay, and if you guys would like to introduce yourselves and your role in the chat box, that would be great. We're going to let Trisha do some housekeeping Zoom meeting items, and then Sarah will take us right into our content.
Just a few reminders. So in addition to putting your name and where you work in the chat box, if you'd like to contact us, you can do that through the OSPA communications email, which will drop in the chat box. Please make sure that you're muted when you're not speaking. And then if you have any questions, you can post them in the chat box, or you can message any of us on the committee directly if you want to remain anonymous.
All right, thank you, Trisha. So we're really excited today. We got asked some speakers to talk to us about and present kind of a show and tell of how we're addressing the need for interventions within this pandemic and in the crisis. So some creative ways that we're getting around some of the virtual needs of our students and making sure that we're able to get them the support they need for both the behavioral, social, emotional interventions as well as academic interventions. We're going to start off with Alex and Emily from Osage County Interlocal Cooperative. They didn't know they were going first, but they are. So they're going to go first and tell us about some work they're doing with the students out there in northeastern Oklahoma. And I'm really excited for them. They're practicum students, and so this is a good opportunity for them to share. I'll turn it over. You guys should have, if you want to screen share, you should have that ability.
All right, she's pulling up the screen right now, so.
Okay, hi everybody, my name's Emily. I am one of the graduate students at OSU and through OCIC, and I first wanted to say, hi Dr. Fauch, I didn't know you were going to be on here, so it's good to see you. But we wanted to just kind of briefly share something that we've found that works with students at our sites, but also we've found that our peers are also doing this out at Stillwater, and they have provided some pretty good feedback on this and things that worked for them, things that didn't work. And so we just wanted to show you a little example of a thing called Jamboard, and it's on Google. You can just find it on there. But on this first one that we found, we do like kind of like a cover copy compare. And I originally had on there like just a full cover copy compare sheet, but feedback from our peers have found that just individually putting them problems on there have worked better. And just having like a little graphic for the student. I know one of our peers, a little girl, I guess really liked mermaids. So she had gotten a little mermaid little image, and then you can just cover it. And how you would get that is you've got little tools over here. And unfortunately you can't just kind of drag and drop it in there. So you've got to kind of go in and search for the image that you would want to put in there. But get as creative as you would like on that one. But that one's pretty straightforward. And just to provide some examples, if you were wanting to do a cover copy compare intervention with any students. The next one is a repeated readings one. I personally have not done a repeated reading intervention virtually, but Alex has, so I'm going to let him speak on that.
Yeah, so I have done some repeated readings intervention with an 8th grader in a school out in Bowering, Oklahoma. And initially we set this up in person, but it's about 2 hours from Stillwater. So, even if there wasn't a pandemic, it's a good way to do interventions virtually if the student is at the right developmental level. But anyway, it's really simple. You can have a few different variations of repeated readings intervention virtually. You can have the stimulus materials in front of the student at their site. You can have them on the screen. It's really whatever they feel most comfortable with. But we've had a lot of success with this. He's growing really well. And because it is virtual, it's provided us a chance to be really consistent with our interventions. Whereas, previously maybe it was only once or twice a week, but now, he's getting 5 days of intervention, which is awesome. But I mean, Jamboard, the teachers that I've, consulted with about this have really loved it because they have a lot of chances to be creative and take ownership of what they create and design and work with their kids on. So they've really loved that aspect of it. But repeated readings is a really good intervention you can do virtually, and it's pretty straightforward too. So.
Okay, and just to kind of piggyback off of what Alex had said, over here on the tools, you can actually share your screen with the student. They can see the repeated readings. And then you have the options of these different pens. You can let them pick a color that they want. You have different pen options. And what we found is that you can go in there, mark the words that the students have missed, provide the error correction on there, and then you can also just simply go in there with the eraser, and then you can just erase that, and then just have the students just go ahead and just repeat that. You've got a little laser option, so if you wanted to do kind of a little laser, you can with the students. But yeah, it's really neat option for if you're wanting to do repeated readings. And then we also have an explicit timing one. And as we all know, explicit timings are usually meant to be written down, but we found that you can also do them virtually. So instead of having them write them down, they can just orally say them out loud, still time them, but that's an option for them to do that. If a student does have an iPad and maybe a pen that they can do it off of, that may be a little bit easier, but we found that using the pen on here and like a computer mouse or a trackpad isn't really a good option for that. And we also have like little blocks. You can make these little sticky notes over here and put whatever you would like in there. you can save it and then it'll pop up right there. You can do like flashcard interventions with them. You can have as many little sticky notes on here as you want, as little sticky notes as you want. As I was getting on here to review my content that I had on here before this meeting, I saw somebody I think was playing Scrabble on here. So that's an option that you can do with your students if they're learning maybe some sight words. That could be a fun little activity for them, or even just the flashcard drill as I had mentioned. And the last thing that we wanted to show you was interventions virtually can just be very strenuous on students. And so providing them with a little fun activity, maybe like, let's take a 5-minute break and we can do a word search. And we just found this word search on Google. Again, you'll just upload it to here. It's a little blurry, so we may have to kind of work with that, but just to kind of give them a little fun activity to do for a couple minutes as like a reinforcement for them is a really great option. And so that's really all we have on Jamboard. Did anybody have any questions that they wanted to ask that we may be able to answer?
This is fabulous. I just want to clarify to make sure everyone understands. So like your student will have the screen and you guys have the screen and you both can mark on it and move things at the same time, right?
Correct. So let me try and move this. So what we found was that if you go over to the option of, I believe it's sharing, and you can see all these that we've shared with, you can actually go in here, and if you want your students to mark and move your items on here, that you can put them in an editor mode, but you can also just put them in a viewer mode. So if you were just like on repeated readings, if you were just wanting to share your screen and not have them mark on it or move things around, you can just simply put them in the viewer mode and they're still able to view everything. They just won't have the option of doing any markings. So you have that option. You can also pull this little screen down and extend it. So if you were a kindergarten teacher wanting to do this or something, you can have multiple little screens on here, and we kind of called them like centers. And as students are moving them around, so on the letters right here, you can actually see the student moving them around. So you can like closely monitor students as they're working, and still maybe just kind of popping in individually. But yeah, you would just share your screen with the student. So.
Very nice, thank you. I'll just direct people to some of the comments in the chat. One person's asked about adding a new page, and if you just hit that arrow button, it will add a new page. And then Erica, great idea of, I was thinking the exact same thing of a say it, move it would be awesome on this, because you can do that. And then Victoria mentioning on the iPad with the Apple Pencil, you could use it to write and highlight. So if they don't have a stylus. So excellent, thank you all. This was I think a very useful tool that can be used for a lot of different academic interventions. Perfect. Any other questions for Emily and Alex before we transition? All right. Thank you, Emily and Alex. Next up, we have Carrie sharing some work she's been doing virtually with students. So Carrie, if you again have the ability to share your screen if you would like.
Okay, so I'm on my iPhone, so I can't share a lot of pictures or information like she did, but I do have some information to share. This is for counseling as a school psychologist, or if you're just doing this as an LPC. I guess there were some questions about some ways we could do virtual counseling. And so I had to find this myself because I'm an LPC. So I was like scrambling when COVID hit. So I got information through the NASP web page. And this was on the OSPA site when I printed it off. That's where I actually got it when I began doing this, but it's not there anymore. So I don't know if we can put it back so people can have access to it, but it's very helpful. They actually put out a student psychoeducational groups in school crisis intervention. It's a prepare model. It has prepared lessons that could be presented to an entire group. And then if you found students who needed more individual help or whatever assistance, and maybe you needed to contact the parents or whatever, or if you needed something to further go with those students that you identify through your group sessions, on the NASP webpage, there are tons of handouts for trauma, anxiety. There's a page on coping, and each page gives you websites to go to for more information, more handouts, things for parents, things for teachers. I mean, it is a host of information that you could be using. Some of these lessons may take longer than the 20 minutes you might be allotted. So maybe you need to break them into 2 or 3 sessions. So there's very good information. It's not on OSPA website, but maybe we could transition those back just for a little while so everybody could print those off and look at the websites. I mean, there's so much that I can't get through all of it, or I haven't been through all of it, but I have been using some of this information. And then I have also in May, this is backdating myself, but in May, I received something called May is Mental Health Month 2020. I'm not sure exactly. I got this in an email from somewhere, and it was loaded with also lessons and websites for places where you could go for mental health information to help students as well as parents, because we know as school psychologists, sometimes we are addressing their needs as well. And there's all kinds of things, lessons for high school, middle school, elementary school. And then again, it gives you a host of other places to go to get more information. So I would encourage you to start with these prepare worksheets first and look at this student psychoeducational book. I'm sorry I couldn't share today, but it's really good. It's at least a place to start. Also, one other thing, I'm sure you guys are doing this and making sure that you can actually see kids in group, but something to keep in mind is making sure that you've checked with their counselor or whatever to make sure that the parent has given you permission to do the groups. I know in some schools it's a mass sheet they sign or don't sign. But for me, I'm a district school psychologist, so I don't know all of the kids or all of the people in district unless I've worked with them. So I would have to ask individually, the kids are in that class, I would have to get with the school counselor or the principal, depending on who works in the school, and find out. So have these kids been given permission for me to do a group lesson with them? Because if they can't be in the group lesson, then we have to figure out a way to do the lesson at a time when that student is not in there, or something like that, because the last thing we need is to give a lesson to a student that their parents have not given us permission to do a lesson with. And you would not be surprised, but there are kids who their parents do not want them to participate. Not surprising, I'm sure. But that's the most information I have for you. Is just, I would encourage you to look on the OSPA web page when they get that loaded, if they're going to put that on there, or if not, if you have access to the NASP, it's all on there. It's free. You can print it out. It is very, very helpful. So I would encourage you to start there. That's all I have, and it seems like a lot, and I wish I could show it all to you, but there's so much. We could be here for an hour just going through the NASP prepare model, but it's very simple. It's an easy read. It's easy to implement. They've made it super, super easy. And there's tons of handouts for different kinds of things that you may need. In fact, I have the stress management on my desk, as well as the coping skills right at hand, because these are often ones I use with students as well as coworkers. And I know you know what I mean. So I would encourage you to look there and start there, and it would be very helpful for you. Are there any questions?
Carrie, I was going to say, if you send me an email of kind of the links of what you were referring to, and then I can see if those are resources that we're able to get up on our OSPA website. And then do you know kind of where to look for it on the NASP website? And I can try to pull that up and show people right now.
Yes, go to professional development.
Okay.
And it is under prepare training curriculum. And then there's a list of handouts.
Okay, I'm going to share my screen right now then for
and at the bottom is the student psychoeducational groups book that I printed off.
Okay.
It's like 20, let me see how many pages it is, but it's worth printing. 36 pages. It's worth it. I'm not kidding. Like when I found it, I was super excited.
So, we're logged in. I believe you have to be a NAS.
You do. You have to be a NAS member. You can't have
member
access
to get
to it.
this.
Yeah,
and
you have,
yeah. For
Yeah,
that
you have-
piece of it.
yeah, you have to be a member to get most of it. But at one time it was on OSPA's webpage, and it was on just as soon as you pulled it up, it was right there.
Okay, we'll look into that and see what we're able to post for members of OSPA related to this and that piece of it.
Okay. Well, I
Yeah,
can.
Any other questions from people about this? Carrie, that's really helpful. Thank you.
You're welcome.
All right, I don't see any other questions. I am going to hand it over to our next speakers who it looks like we're going to call on Brandon and Cade. They have another academic intervention resource that they're going to share with you all.
All right, well, hello, everybody. Brandon and I work together, and we're taking a little bit of a different perspective because our role, we don't get to do a whole lot of intervention groups ourselves. So our role is mainly coaching. And so what we did was we reached out to the people who we know are working hard with the groups to get their expertise and knowledge because they've been doing it all day, every day. So we're going to present here. We got a little slideshow just to have it presented here cleanly. So I'm going to get to that real quick. I don't multitask very well. Okay. So first of all, I want to give credit where credit's due. I asked one of my reading specialists at one of my buildings. I just asked for her input, and so she responded to my email asking for input with a PowerPoint. So that just kind of tells you how good some of the people that we work with are. And so kind of a dual purpose for what Brandon and I wanted to talk about was virtual learning and how to boost engagement, make sure that we have engagement so that we have good learning. But then also the kind of the side tangent of kind of our purpose is also just reinforcing I think kind of the point of this committee is to encourage collaboration with our colleagues who may know more than we know on certain topics. So kind of a dual purpose there. So let me see if I can get this to move. There we go. So Brandon and I are just going to kind of jump in with each other and talk about these things. So essentially the first thing we wanted to set up how to have a successful Zoom session. So we know we have some Zoom meetings or intervention sessions that are successful and some that are not. And so we just want to try and set up the environment first and foremost to make sure that we are set up for success. So I won't read the whole, all the words on the slide to you there, but, making sure that the students know what to expect first and foremost when they join the Zoom and, that there's a routine. And of course, you yourself knowing, or the people who you are coaching doing the intervention sessions, of course, knowing what they're doing before jumping in as well. I'm very glad that Emily and Alex talked about Jamboard because that was something that was brought up to us as well. So, we won't talk too much about actually using Jamboard because Emily and Alex did such a great job of demonstrating that. So we will move on to the next. Brandon, is there anything on this first slide that you want to talk about?
I think the biggest thing I've noticed really is just that same schedule every single day where possible, because these kids thrive off of that consistency. And especially when you have kids that maybe don't want to quite jump into those small groups with the interventionists or the special education staff, it helps to have that situated where the teachers can just kind of shove them into those groups and say, okay, do your thing. Time to learn.
Yeah. So Brandon, I'm going to let you take take this slide away.
All right. So this slide really just goes back to those 5 tenets of that small group instruction. So we always want to make sure that when we're doing these groups, we go back to what is best practice, which is differentiation, teaching toward that independence. I really enjoy the I do, we do, you do for that gradual release. Explicit strategies, and the reading specialist noted this was a big mind shift for her, because instead of just teaching guided reading, she realized she really had to focus on those specific strategies to help build those skills for those students. Also making sure that your time is valuable, and that for our students in particular, we have a very high population of English language learners. We really try to emphasize the 4 domains of reading, writing, speaking, and listening in all of our lessons to make sure they have those chances to practice all of those skills required for English language development. And as we talked about previously, very predictable structure and routine, making sure things run smoothly and pretty much the same each time as it can.
Yeah, and just to add on to what Brandon has already said, doing the reading, writing, speaking, listening, keeping all those things, just building those into routine, because as we know, engagement is hard on virtual meetings, and we can often have kids who are glazed over or change their picture to say that they've lost connection or something. They can get creative about it. So just encouraging any kind of engagement that we can get. But then if we do that routinely every single time, they know that when they get on Zoom with with this instructor, that they're going to do it to work, and so they're not going to come to it with the attitude of kind of taking it easy. Again, I'll just talk about this one just real briefly. Teaching explicit strategies. This is something that in particular, the elementary building that I have, we've really put a lot of focus on in my coaching of the teams, because a lot of times we just focus on sight words only, and there's no phonics instruction or other greater reading skills. And so she had shared these 2 books, the reading strategies and writing strategies books, as examples of things where you can find. But we all know different resources that we can look at. NASP has resources, as already talked about, that we can look for teaching explicit strategies and good evidence-based instruction. So some online text resources. She had, again, like I said, she had talked about using Jamboard quite a bit herself, and so that was one that she had on there. Another one that she likes to use, talking about the reading specialist that I asked here, was getepic.com, where you can assign students to read books on their own breakout. So utilizing those breakout sessions within Zoom. Reading A to Z, the district that Brandon and I work at, it's a provided license that everybody has. I don't know how that looks like for other districts. But then she's listed some other ones there. And Brandon, I'll let you take away the next.
And the same thing here, just some other word work resources online. Our district utilizes Seesaw, which I know is, and as I understand, free for teachers. There's also some interactive games and activities on readwritethink.org that you can pull resources from and ways to engage those students. And another interactive whiteboard similar to Jamboard is Limnu. So there's lots of really good quality whiteboards out there to do different types of word work activities. And the same thing here for comprehension. You can do some character webs and Venn diagrams through Limnu. We also have lots of staff that use Mentimeter for response to questions from text, really elicit that comprehension skill.
Yeah, so, just as an example lesson, again, we won't read all of this to you, but we just kind of put in words what an expected lesson can look like. So if you guys wanted to take this as you're coaching your teams, just as an example of what some other people are doing. But, first and foremost, connecting with students is so important, as we all know. So connecting with students and then working through the educational things to follow. And then again, just keeping all that engagement with all those other strategies that we've talked about, utilizing breakout rooms, most helpful for older students. And then, just being very specific, explicit skills, explicit instruction for more individualized students. Brandon, anything else there that we need to talk about on this slide?
I think you did a fine job, Cade.
Awesome. So, and then again, just at the end there, speaking, listening, writing, engaging all of those different modalities, so that we can really encode the information. I threw in this slide as just an example because utilizing Jamboard. So it sounds like most of us were on the same wavelength there. Jamboard, I thought, perfect for a say it, move it, or something like that. And so we threw this in there because it would be so easy to utilize with the Jamboard and a good, again, evidence-based intervention that we can use through technology. And then we got another name there of somebody we collaborated with. So again, just important to collaborate with people we know and use those evidence-based strategies. All right, anything else to wrap up our part there, Brandon?
I think that's about it.
Any questions from anybody else?
Yeah, it looks like Sonia's asking about, I don't know what that stands for, the WACOM or WACOM boards. So if you guys are familiar with those, or Sonia, you might need to give us another explanation of what that is.
Sonia, I'm not sure if these sites have integration with Wacom tablets. I'm sure it's something that you could look into, especially since they're just kind of plug and play in a way. I'm sure it'd be pretty easy to test that out. But as with Jamboard, definitely things like iPads will work for sure.
Yes, and just to reiterate what Erica says, and what I love about what you guys just presented is having that structure and it really integrating the interventions into a full reading structure and getting that comprehensive reading instruction, because I'm afraid that our students who are virtual might be missing that. And so I love that structure that you put there. Thank you for that. Any questions for Cade and Brandon before we move on? All right, I'm not seeing anything pop up in the chat. Thank you guys so much. Next, we're going to hear from Lindsay Bardwell, who's a school psychologist practicing in a private practice in Edmond right now, and she's going to share some of the counseling services that she's been able to provide to her clients virtually. So Lindsay, I will hand it over to you, and you should have screen sharing ability if you want to.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Sarah. I love being here. I miss all my school psych people. Like Sarah said, I've been in a private practice setting for about 5 years now. So I'm at Cornerstone Behavioral Health and Pediatric Therapies in Edmond. So as you guys know, the pandemic has been interesting. I mean, in a lot of ways, I feel like it's been good because it's sort of pushed us to be creative and make sure that we're still serving our clients the best that we can. So just to give you an idea of the kind of population that I work with. So part of what I do is psychological assessment, working with kids anywhere from 2 to 18. We do autism evaluations, other neurodevelopmental disorder evaluations, and then some of us also do a little bit of therapy. So whenever the pandemic hit, it was kind of a rough time figuring out, how do I stay connected with my clients? How do I make sure that they're still doing okay? And as you guys know, kids with neurodevelopmental delays and just kids in general are not really into Zoom, and especially for an hour. So, I mean, parents, I feel like felt very supported. And, I think part of my sessions ended up being a lot of parent therapy, parent training, like trying to support them. But for my kids that could handle it, and by handle it, I mean, were able to maintain focus, had pretty typical language abilities, and they're elementary school age, middle school age, maybe have high functioning ASD, ADHD, or anxiety. We were able to get pretty creative. So I don't know if you guys, and I'm going to hold this up. Hopefully you can see it. So I don't know if you guys have ever heard of these books. They're the What to Do When Blank. This author, Dr. Huebner, has a ton of different books. So this one is What to Do When Life's Not Fair, which I feel like is very timely during the pandemic. It's for ages 6 through 11. I have another one that I've been using recently. It's What to Do When You Worry Too Much, also very timely. And if you look through, you can find all these books on Amazon. They're about $10. So a lot of parents are like, yes, yeah, I'll definitely purchase whatever. And it seriously, they have a book for everything. So what I've had done is I have the parents go ahead and purchase a book for the child, and then I also have my own, and then we kind of go through it together. So, and part of the books that I've noticed, I like to kind of run through all of the chapters. So I'm like, oh, we could knock out 2 chapters, and the kids are like, nope, hard pass on that. So we just really focus on 1 chapter at a time. And when you guys look it up, you'll notice like it's very easy to read. It has like lots of pictures. And so what I've started to do is while we're reading it together, and a lot of kids would just prefer that I read it to them, there's different exercises. So one of them is this blank page, and it says, draw something that you worry about. So what I do is I will bring up the share screen option. I will do the whiteboard here. And a lot of kids like to have control. And they like to be able to like run through all of the different colors and the different text options or draw options. And so that I'll have them actually do the different exercises and draw the pictures here, so that we're more engaged, and I can ensure they're actually paying attention and not just doing like back flips on their bed every once in a while, which they still do, but they come back. So what you can do is you're able to, I'm not seeing it right now, but you're able to provide remote access so that they can also access the whiteboard as well. And to keep it interesting, because oftentimes with behavior therapy, you have to have some kind of motivation for the kids to stay engaged, something to work for. And in the clinic, we have this awesome sensory gym, has an indoor trampoline. So I was like, how do I compete with that? So funny enough, kids just like the simple joy of coloring and tic-tac-toe and playing hangman. And I sort of start off my sessions having them come, and they can decide what we do first. Then we do our lesson. We use the whiteboard to go through the activities. And then we end the session with another activity of their choice. So a lot of kids like to draw me pictures. I've taken a picture of their pictures before, and I obviously cut out their name and any identifying information, but it's just really sweet to see. And I think, making the virtual aspect of Zoom therapy, if you will, reinforcing to them, keeps them coming back every time. So if I was just sitting here talking to them like I'm talking to you guys right now, it's pretty boring. But if they know that they get to pick different colors, they get, there's like this stamp feature, they're way more likely to stay engaged with me. And it allowed me to figure out, okay, what can I do in order to make this more engaging, not only clinically, but also just to maintain that rapport that we built in person. And that being said, most of the clients, and I'm going to stop sharing this. Oh, there it is. Yeah. So you can do remote control, and then you can allow access to your client. And typically these clients are, like I said, they're ones that have less issues with impulse control. So they have quite a bit of compliance. So my kids are maybe lower functioning, more hyperactive, more impulsive, and are just going to scribble everywhere. I maintain the control of it. But the kids that I feel like are a little bit older and maybe they're just struggling with anxiety and they just need to kind of process some things, there's more flexibility, and them having that control and me trusting them with that control, I think makes it even better for them. But So anyway, what I was saying before was that a lot of these clients, I had built that in-person rapport before all of this started. So it's a little bit more challenging if it's a new client being able to build that rapport in this way. So I will say I've had one client that I did meet for the first time virtually, but I'm sure you guys have had this experience. Usually the siblings of my clients are struggling too. And so I did an evaluation, an autism evaluation, and mom, the family was from Tulsa and I'm in Edmond, obviously. And mom was like, I just feel like sibling is feeling a little bit envious or jealous of the time that we spend. And that's where this like What to Do When Life's Not Fair book came out, and handling envy and jealousy. So he doesn't necessarily have any sort of diagnosis at all. So meeting him virtually was not a problem at all. And we've been able to work through some things. And as far as generalization goes, I'm always concerned about that. So I always have the parent involved at the beginning and the end, kind of go recap what we discussed. There's usually some sort of like homework assignment, because I want to make sure the kid's not just here playing around and then there's not any kind of carryover to the actual home environment, so that there's improvement. But that's that in a nutshell. Does anyone have any questions at all? I know that's pretty simple, and it doesn't have to be complicated. You just have to see like what's motivating to my client, how can I be the most helpful? You don't have to do a ton. Kids really do like to color and they like to play games. And when I told someone that I was playing hangman with my clients, they were a little appalled, but I was like, hey, we're working on literacy. What are you going to do about it? And I let them pick the category, which is usually like animals or something else that's pretty silly. But it's been fun for me too. Because you as the therapist, you have to enjoy it as well. And who doesn't love tic-tac-toe and hangman? So anyway, any questions at all?
Thank you so much, Lindsay.
You're
That was
welcome.
great. I'm going to read kind of what Erica said, because I was thinking the same thing. For those who have not used the whiteboard option on Zoom, when you click screen share, it's one of the options you can do instead of like sharing a specific picture. So it's built in there. So yeah, Sonia, it wasn't a specific app. It was just part of the Zoom feature there. And then you can share access to them. I believe, Lindsay, is it correct that the sharing access, you like at the top once you're sharing it?
Yeah, so when you share the screen and you click on the whiteboard, like you said, that it's one of the options, and then you share, and then you go up here and there's this remote control, and then you can assign access to your client. And then I will also, we'll do on this screen share that multiple individuals can share at the same time. So sometimes kids want to like show me something or pictures, and so I'll allow them, with parent guidance, to use the share screen option for that as well.
Yes, and Jamboard was the one that we very first talked about with adding the pages, and I think you could use Lindsay could very easily see using other options like that as well with similar stuff. Great.
Yeah, I was like, oh, this is fun. I kind of like this when I discovered it. I was like, this is cool. And then giving them, I've let them choose what my background is whenever I have a wall in which I can actually do a background. And so it's always like Minecraft or something. And so making me more visually appealing to them and playing on their interests is also a way to keep them engaged. And they think it's pretty funny that Dr. Lindsay has Minecraft behind her. So whatever works, guys.
I love that. I love that.
Yeah.
Any other questions or thoughts for any of our presenters that you guys had for today? All right, I'm not seeing anything, so I am going to hand it over to Erica to talk to us about next week, which is our National School Psychology week. I can't remember what the name of it is now because they changed it from SPA. So, but we're going to have National School Psychology Week. Thank you so much to all of our presenters. That was all excellent information. And I will be sending out an email with links of all of that information as well. So you guys will have one resource with all those links.
Yes, thank you so much. And next week, so the 9th through the 13th is National School Psychology Week, what we used to call SPA, and NASP for some reason decided to change the name. So I would encourage all of us to do at least one. There's little things you can do, like change your Facebook profile picture or the background. Some of our committee members, for example, have OSPA as their background today. Those are some small things that you can do to show your spirit. The theme this year is the power of possibility. And just for fun, I would like it if you guys, when you hear the word possibility, what does that mean for you? And so if you guys just want to share in the box, maybe some thoughts about what that means. I think of hope. I think of resiliency. I think sky's the limit when I think of possibility. And I also love then that is paired with power, because for me, power means agency, capability, and yep, we can do that. And I love that people are saying potential, opportunities, optimism, and positive change. So we need some optimism, some positive change, some opportunities. And the good news, I think, is we know as school psychologists, we have the power to do that. So for ourselves, for certainly the students and schools that we serve, for each other, and just kind of in the world in general, and also for our profession. So love the theme. If you go to the NASP website and you can just search for National School Psychology Week or NSPW, they do have, as typical, their full page with many different kinds of activities and ideas for how to promote our profession, how to serve our students. Some of my favorite things, of course, is the poster, which you can print. They do have them in English and Spanish, so you could print. It's something, my backgrounds don't seem to work on my computer, but I could certainly print one of these posters and stick it on that white wall there behind me. They have some of my other favorite activities are things like the Gratitude Works program and the Student Power Awards, which you can give to good people doing good work that support school psychs and that supports education. So I'd encourage you to check that out. NASP recently put out on their Facebook page a video about School Psych Week, and then different social media applications that you can use on your Twitter feed to change your profile picture, all of those types of things. At the state level, I'd also like to highlight that our advocacy team is doing some great work in partnership with NASP. And I think Wednesday, you will have an opportunity to talk to school psychs through letters to your legislators. So there'll be pre-populated things, a couple of clicks, and you can send to your local representatives, new or old, whoever they happen to be, information about who we are and what we support. And the advocacy committee has some other great things happening. So this is just another shot from some of the things you can do. And then on our webpage, Natalie, on our advocacy committee, and who's our central region delegate, and others have contributed, but we have our own PowerPoint that you can check out on the OSPA site, and other information to do with National School Psych Week. You could also print labels, you know, to go on your face if you're that kind of person, but I'll forgive you if you just want to change your profile picture instead. So Daniel, I'm kind of putting you on the spot, but was there anything else from the advocacy committee that you wanted to add about your efforts and the efforts of the advocacy committee for next week?
Just be on the lookout for a link. We'll send out a link to the entire member, or an email that includes a link to the entire membership, where, just like Erica said, it'll just be a few clicks, and it'll auto-populate a letter that will be sent to our legislators that talks about, it highlights the shortages, and it has some we put some Oklahoma specific data in it, and we also added a little blurb about OSPA's work in collaborating with Oklahoma legislators in pushing for MTSS at the statewide level.
Okay, so I also just wanted to express sincere gratitude to all of our presenters today. I've already got some awesome ideas for how to further engage people online. So thank you all for showing and telling today with your expertise and giving us all some good ideas. I think Catherine has some announcements next.
Yes, so just to tag team off of what Daniel was just saying, as the communications committee co-chair, I just wanted to encourage everyone to also be on the lookout on our social media outlets for daily information and encouragement related to National School Psychology Week, I think is the new name. So I'm gonna put in the chat box our social media identifiers. So just on Facebook, it's Oklahoma School Psychological Association. And then our others are a little bit different. So on Twitter and Instagram, if you don't follow us already, it's at OK School Psych. Oops, I've misspelled it. Sorry, trying to multitask. And let me just try one more time. At OK School Psych. Sorry about that. And so these are different ways that you can be in touch with us over time if you aren't already. And then also, if you have any follow-up or questions at any time for our crisis response committee or for any of our committees, you're welcome to reach out to us at ospacommunications@gmail.com. So I just dropped that in the chat box. And then also we wanted to remind you all that coming up on November 18th, which this time will be a Wednesday, our other two have been on Fridays. So I just wanted to point out it's a little bit different for our final virtual conference session with Andrea Kunkel. So we look forward to seeing everyone who has registered, and it's not too late to register if you want to get credits for that final, for attending the final live session on Wednesday, November 18th from 9 a.m. to 11:30 a.m. And I just wanted to point out the time frame is slightly different this time as well. So our speaker, Andrea, will discuss ethics, and she's our specialist in terms of legal and ethical issues related to special education and school psychology. And we always really enjoy hearing from her. She's so knowledgeable and also just approachable and always great to hear from. And so she'll speak to us from 9 to 11, and then from 11 to 11:30 will be our networking session. And we've divided up a couple different ways so far in our previous meetings. This time we'll divide up based on kind of more topical interests. So just some examples would be, if you're interested in learning more about advocacy, there'll be a time to connect with the advocacy committee, or issues of equity and diversity, or maybe crisis response. And so we'll look forward to being able to connect in another way during that meeting as well, during that networking opportunity. So if you have any questions about any of those announcements, you're welcome to reach out through any of those different modes of communication. Thanks, everybody.
Excellent. Thank you all so much. I think the one final thing, our tradition is to kind of wrap up, and Trisha takes our picture. So show your faces, and if you have some school psych spirit, I don't think anyone beats Erica with literally pasting on her face, but and her coffee mugs too. So there you go. I see some good ones. So if you would to be in our picture, or at least have your name in it, and I think Trisha is going to get us ready, and then we'll sign off after that.
Sarah, one more thing. Sorry, this is Jackie. And maybe you said this, Catherine. I'm sorry if you did, because I'm also trying to do a couple things at once. But if anybody does have questions for Andrea Kunkel for the ethics, it's awesome. We're going to get 2 hours of ethics credit from listening to her. But she also asked if there's any topics or questions or anything in particular that anybody wants her to tackle. She's happy to do that. So if you do have any questions or any burning topics you want her to address, please send those to us at that communications email, and then we'll go ahead and get that to her beforehand so she can touch on it.
And if those questions, if you'd like to remain anonymous, because I know some of your ethical questions might be something that you don't want to have displayed in the front of the whole world, that's fine too. Just indicate that. on your email, and we're happy to just present those as generalized questions to Andrea without identifying the source, if that's what you prefer.
Okay, I will give a few seconds to let people get off if they don't want to be on the picture. And then we'll take a picture. Okay, I saw one person get off. Okay, I'm gonna do a countdown now. 3, and I'm sorry, my dog is whining, if you can hear her. Okay. 1, 2, 3. Oh, that didn't work. Hold on. Okay, try that again. 1, 2, 3. And let's do one more. Okay, 1, 2, 3. Okay, look for that to be posted in a little bit, and then look for all of our other posts for the end of this week and next week. And we've got quite a few things going on. So thank you all for joining us. Thank you for all our presenters, and we hope to see you soon.
Bye, everyone.